We live in interesting times. Today's stories. Nicaragua expels UN Human Rights Mission. Canada says the NAFTA deal is within reach. In Ramallah, Eric condemns the U.S. decision to end funding for UNRWA. In Gaza, Palestinians react to a U.S. decision to end funding for UNRWA. Plus, the 61st Squamish Days Jogger Sports Festival highlights lumberjack skills. Hello everyone, I am Rose Papa Angeles, bringing you stories from around the globe. And this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Guillermo Fernandez, coordinator of the mission in Nicaragua for Central America of the OHCHR, says that the High Commissioner for Human Rights will continue to monitor the situation in Nicaragua from Panama as President Ortega expelled the United Nations Human Rights Mission from the country. The government of Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega on Friday expelled the United Nations Human Rights Mission 2 days after it published a report criticizing the climate of fear in the Central American country. The announcement came in a terse statement from the Foreign Ministry in Managua. It read, "Considering the reasons, causes, and conditions that gave rise to this invitation have ceased." The ministry announces that it has terminated the invitation and ended the visit as of today. The head of the mission, Guillermo Fernandez Maldonado, had earlier been summoned by Foreign Minister Dennis Moncada.
El día de ayer recibió una comunicación por parte del Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores donde se da por concluida la invitación extendida por el gobierno al Alto Comisionado de Derechos Humanos y que la misión se da por, y cito textualmente, finalizada. El Alto Comisionado para los Derechos Humanos va a proseguir con su labor de monitorear y de informar sobre la situación de derechos humanos en Nicaragua de forma remota, es decir, desde Panamá.
In a statement, the UN Rights Mission said it would continue its work of monitoring the situation in Nicaragua remotely, in accordance with its mandate from the UN General Assembly. Pro-government supporters surrounded the UN mission's headquarters and a nearby hotel housing foreign journalists for several hours on Friday, at one point preventing anyone from entering or leaving. They eventually left the area without incident. Canada's Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland says win-win-win, NAFTA deal is within reach. Negotiations between Canada and the United States on the Continental Trade Pact are continuing.
As we've said from the outset, our objective in these talks is to update and modernize NAFTA in a way that is good for Canadians, good for Americans, and good for Mexicans. We know that a win-win-win agreement is within reach, and that's what we're working towards.
Canadian and U.S. sources said negotiations between Canada and the United States on a continental trade pact ended without a deal Friday but will resume this week. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer office also issued a statement saying the negotiations over the past 4 days were constructive and progress was made. Lighthizer said the White House had informed Congress Friday that it intends to sign a new free trade deal with Mexico and possibly with Canada within 90 days. He said the agreement will have huge benefits for our workers, farmers, ranchers, and businesses. Up next, in Ramallah, Eric condemns a U.S. decision to end funding for UNRWA. In Gaza, Palestinians react to a U.S. decision to end funding for UNRWA. Eagle News Washington, D.C. will return in a moment.
yung possible violation ng cybercrime prevention law.
Bakit puro yung mga guys ang nagpapakamatay, yung mga girls, parang wala na.
Kasi po bilang influencer, dapat hindi ka lang po talaga para sa sarili mo.
At nalang yata ambisyon nila magkaroon ng online business.
Ano yung step ko? Bakong bagay ang step mo?
Eagle News Teams are fair.
Sa impeachment complaint laban kay Supreme Court Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno, ang ilang maestro ang rekomendasyon na makasuhan ang mga sangkot kasama na ang mga opisyal ng customs.
Hardworking.
Papaunlad ng isang bata na magiging isang future youth leaders.
Dedicated.
Sa nasawi ay dito natagpuan yung
Ito
bangkay.
yung kanilang paraan ng pag-aalaga ng mga may sakit na leprosy noong unang panahon.
Committed to public service.
Ang chairmanship ng ASEAN sa bansang Singapore.
Yung mga biktima ng mga nawawala ng Bureau of Customs na nasa merkado na yung mga pinaging produkto.
Sa kapila ng mga kilos protesta na nanatiling
Dahil sa mabilis na pagresponde ng mga pamatay sunog, ang apoy mabilis na
karoon ng equal opportunity ang ibang mga kababaihan ng mga kabataan at ipinakita sa pamagitan ng kanilang mga likha.
Nanatiling kulang pa rin ang tubig para sa irigasyon, para sa pagtatanim ng ating mga kababayang magsasaka.
As we live in interesting times.
Letters and Music, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, 1:00 hanggang 2:00 ng hapon.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. The Secretary General of the Palestine Liberation Organization, Saeb Erekat, condemns the U.S. decision to end all funding for the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency that assists 3 million needy refugees.
The U.S. may argue that it's American taxpayer money and they want to give or not give, that's their business. But my question to them, who gave them the right to undermine UNRWA? Who gave them the right to approve the stealing of Palestinian lands by the Israeli occupation? Who gave them the right to announce that East Jerusalem is part of capital of Israel? What is the American administration doing? They are preempting, prejudging issues reserved for permanent status. They are undermining the moderate forces in Palestine and Israel. Those elements who want to achieve peace peacefully based on a two-state solution are being destroyed. In the last 3 years, President Abbas has been spending 20% of our budget on our refugee camps in Syria and Lebanon, in terms of education, in terms of helping UNRWA, in terms of health, in order not to allow terrorist organizations such as ISIS to recruit our people there because of their needs. Now, with this cut, what does this mean? What does this mean to the stability of Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, West Bank, and Gaza, and the refugee camps? Well, I think what we're going to do now is try to ask all nations on earth to stand shoulder to shoulder with us in order to provide UNRWA with the needs, financial needs, and its requirements in order to continue shouldering its responsibilities towards the health, schools, facilities of the refugee camps.
Israel welcomed Saturday a U.S. decision to end funding for the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency, UNRWA, accusing the organization, which supports some 5 million Palestinians, of perpetuating the Middle East conflict. Israel and the United States have accused the nearly 70-year-old agency of maintaining the idea that many Palestinians are refugees with a right to return to the homes from which they fled or were expelled during the 1948 war that accompanied Israel's creation, an idea they both oppose. On Friday, Washington, which until last year was by far the agency's biggest contributor, announced it was ending funding to the irredeemably flawed operation. Palestinian Ambassador Hossam Zomlot accused the United States of reneging on its international commitment and responsibility towards a body that was set by UN General Assembly resolution in 1949. He said by endorsing the most extreme Israeli narrative on all issues, including the rights of more than 5 million Palestinian refugees, the U.S. administration has lost its status as peacemaker and is damaging not only an already volatile situation, but the prospects for future peace. UNRWA now supports some 5 million registered Palestinian refugees and provides schooling to 526,000 children in the Palestinian territories as well as in camps in Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the agency had its full confidence and called on other countries to help fill the remaining financial gap so that UNRWA can continue to provide this vital assistance. UNRWA spokesman Chris Gunness tweeted, "We reject in the strongest possible terms the criticism that UNRWA schools, health centers, and emergency assistance programs are irredeemably flawed." Washington, which had already frozen $300 million in funding this year, throwing the agency into financial crisis, said it would seek ways to prevent its decision from hurting innocent Palestinians. Israel expressed support for a new conduit for humanitarian assistance to the Palestinians. Palestinians react angrily to a U.S. decision to end all funding for the UN agency that assists 3 million needy refugees, seeing it as a new policy shift aimed at undermining their cause. The move by President Donald Trump's administration was described as a cruel and irresponsible by senior Palestinian official Hanan Ashrawi. Ashrawi said the Palestinian refugees are already the victims who have lost their homes, livelihoods, and security as a result of the creation of the State of Israel. The U.S. has backed Israel in accusing the agency of perpetuating the Middle East conflict by maintaining the idea that many Palestinians are refugees with a right to return to homes in what is now Israel. But to Palestinians, the right of return for the hundreds of thousands who fled or were expelled during the 1948 war that accompanied Israel's creation is central to their cause. Chief Palestinian negotiator Saeed Erekat said the American administration was invalidating future peace talks by preempting prejudging issues reserved for permanent status negotiations. Palestinians and Israeli elements that want to achieve peace peacefully based on a two-state solution are being destroyed. President Trump had already angered Palestinians by the December recognition of the disputed city of Jerusalem as Israel's capital and axing more than $200 million in bilateral aid for Gaza and the West Bank. The new policy on Jerusalem overturned decades of precedent and prompted the Palestinian leadership to break off relations with the White House. Palestinian presidential spokesman Nabi Abu Rudaina said Washington's decision promotes terrorism and was a violation of UN resolutions. UNRWA, which was established in 1949, was already facing a financial crisis after Trump announced a $300 million funding freeze in January. The agency, which assists more than 5 million registered Palestinian refugees, says it now faces the threat of major closures to its networks of schools and health centers. Mahmoud Mubarak, director of the community-run committees that run the 19 refugee camps in the West Bank, which accommodate some 500,000 Palestinians, warned of the very serious repercussions of the U.S. move. Mubarak said representatives of the committees would be meeting on Tuesday to discuss their options. In the impoverished Gaza Strip, where most children attend UNRWA schools, 55-year-old Hisham Sakala said the U.S. move was political blackmail that would merely increase unrest.
هذا قرار جائر، هذا ناوي يجوعنا وبحاربنا في التعليم وفي العلاج وفي كل شيء. هذا مش منطق ولا احنا بنرفضه كله جملة طالما موضوعة. احنا بدنا بلادنا وبدنا الحرية وبدنا العودة وبدنا نرجع ويفكوا الحصار عنا ويطلع من بلادنا وبدناش منهم لا طحين ولا سكر. احنا بدنا بلادنا يستحي شوية يطلع اذا عندهم كرامة يطلع من بلادنا بكفي عاد. هذا ترامب اللي طلع جاي ضد العالم كله بدفع عقوبات وغيره وغيراته. مين هو شايف حاله يصرف عنا؟ ما بدناش حاجه منه، بس احنا بدنا حقوقنا. اللي بنطالب احنا مش متعدين على، احنا بدنا حقوقنا وبس.
هذه المساعدات حق للاجئين وليس حق لترامب أن عشان يرضي إسرائيل وما غيرهما من الذين سرقوا أرضنا. هذه حقنا، يعني احنا لاجئين. لن نرضى من ترامب ولا غير ترامب انه يقدر يقطع المساعدات. ترامب لا بيساعدش من جيبته.
Coming up, the 61st Squamish Days Lager Sports Festival highlights lumberjack skills. Eagle News Washington, D.C. will return shortly.
Know the latest news and information here and abroad. In Aguila, Balita, track the latest happenings in the provinces in Aguila, Provincia. Be aware of important events in Asia, in ASEAN in Focus, and be updated in the biggest news around the world in Eagle News International. Tune into Mata ng Aguila and get the day's headlines and news that are sharp, accurate, and objective. Only here at Net 25. As Eagle Broadcasting Corporation marks its 50th year, it is conducting several activities under the theme EBC Cares, enabling a better community. Health and nutrition are key factors on child's learning and well-being. EBC's feeding program encourages the community to combat malnutrition among children and ensure them a healthy future. EBC's cleanup drive in citronella planting hopes to help the community in caring for the environment and preventing diseases such as dengue. EBC's public service program, Paglilingkod sa Bayan, Serbisyo para sa Mamayan, has opened its doors to government agencies so more people can avail of these services. EBC's blood donation program and medical mission continue to spearhead life-saving projects, and EBC's livelihood seminar teaches and guides those who want to have additional income and business. EBC Cares, serving the people in these interesting times.
Pet News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. I am Rose Papa Angeles. Eagle News correspondent Kathleen Cruz takes us to this year's Squamish Days Lager Sports Festival, where lumberjack skills take the spotlight. Take a look.
Competitive luggers from around the world are gathered here in Squamish, Canada for the 61st annual Squamish Days Lugger Sports Festival.
Lugger Sport is a historical event that reenacts all traditional skills in the past for occupation or to build homes. It is dubbed as Canada's ultimate heritage sport.
It's a 5-day festival. We have numerous events that take place over the weekend, but of course our feature event for the weekend is our 2 lager sport shows, and that draws competitors from all over the world to compete in lager sports. We're celebrating our 61st anniversary this year. We started in 1957, and it was a 1-day show just with lager sports, and now we've grown into a 5-day festival that includes bed races, an 8K run, pancake breakfast parade, kids events, all kinds of stuff for the whole family.
Novice and professional lumberjacks show off their stamina and strength in different logging sports events, which require tenacity and skills. Squamish is known as the outdoor recreational capital of Canada, as the event has attracted luggers worldwide.
This year we have over 80 competitors here today. We had approximately the same number of competitors here yesterday, and they come from all over the world. Lots of people from Canada, BC, Alberta, the East Coast, lots of people from the United States, California, Washington, Idaho, Montana.
And we also have competitors from around the world, Australia, New Zealand, Denmark. We've had competitors from Norway, Sweden in the past as well. So we're very lucky that Squamish is also such a beautiful place to be, and we have such a great event that they want to come back all the time.
This year's world-class lumberjack competition highlights different events. First, there's the Choker Man's Race, where contestants race to the end of the log while carrying a 34-kilogram, 8-meter-long rigging choker and securing it before returning to the starting line. Sawing or speed bucking is not an easy task either. This requires hot saws to cut a big log. Hand bucking is not a very known activity, but for loggers, it's a no-secret skill. A giant piece of metal is used to cut through a log with the help of an oiler that lubricates the saw. One of the crowd's favorite is the tree climbing event. Competitors must race to the top of an 80-feet tree, then sliding back down as fast as they can.
Well, I've always been a real backer of the tree climb because it's such a dangerous event and it takes a one-of-a-kind person to do it. They have a rule where you have to touch the tree every 15 feet.
Another crowning event is the tree falling. Competitors have to race in sawing the base of the tree with speed and accuracy. The most exciting to see is when logs are starting to fall one by one on the marked ground. Other events also include axe throwing, burling, tree topping, and butcher block chopping.
This has been a tradition and part of history in the West Coast Canadian culture. Reporting from Squamish, Canada, for Eagle News, I am Kathleen Cruz. I am 1 with 25.
Thanks, Kathleen. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.ph and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenewsph. Thank you for watching. I am Rose Papa Angeles, and I am 1 with 25.